It's kind of funny how different nations are known for their certain type of engines, like the British here with their Triumphs, their Nortons, BSAs. They all have these vertical type cylinders. The Germans, BMWs, the old Zundaps, have the horizontal ones. And of course, the Americans have the good old V-twin. From an engineering standpoint of view, it's a natural. It fits the frame so well, and there's no excess space. And then there's the torque and the pulling power. And there's something about the vibration and the sound that kind of makes your body come alive, you know? I like it. The V reaches people at almost a primal level. You know, V for victory, V for peace, the triangle, the pyramid. You know, some might even give it an erotic connotation. And when you add in how great it feels to ride, well, then I guess that's how you get the beginning of the mystique. But Harley wasn't thinking of mystique when they first built their V-twin. They were thinking of power, doubling the power of a single. And by 1909, they needed it.
The demand for motorcycles grew rapidly. Almost overnight, motorcycles became the workhorse of America. They were less than one-third the price of the cheapest car, and just as important, they could go where an automobile couldn't. Small businessmen quickly discovered that motorcycles were practical and dependable. Just about everything you could think of was delivered on 2 or 3 wheels. Ice, shoes, telegrams, girls. For the budget-minded family, motorcycles made sense. They were economic transportation. And for young bachelors, they were both affordable and fun. It was around this time that ladies began appreciating the joys of riding, too. That's Charlie Chaplin and his date on 1911 Thor. Now, that wouldn't have happened on a Harley, Charlie. These were the golden years of motorcycling, a period of unmatched popularity. In 1910, 86,000 motorcycles were registered in the U.S. By 1913, America was producing more than that each year. Different makers sprang up all over the country. Sears and Roebuck even offered a V-twin you could order right from their catalog, along with wing collars and high-button shoes. The competition in the marketplace was becoming fierce. But the 4 partners were ready to compete. Arthur Davidson went coast to coast, setting up one of the best dealer networks in the United States. William Davidson concentrated on the labor force, drawing heavily on the German and Italian immigrants who were flocking to Milwaukee. Within 10 years, Harley-Davidson had grown from a handshake partnership into a major motor company. And somehow, William and Bill Harley here managed to take time out to catch a passel of fish. Harley was the engineer. He kept the technical edge with the first successful clutch and kickstarter. But this wasn't enough to guarantee success. People had to see how good the Harley-Davidson was. The way to do this was through racing. For as long as man has had the wheel, he has had races. That's Ben-Hur piloting a 4-horsepower rig. The rules back then were simple. First one around the track wins. The rules today are pretty simple, too. First one around the track wins. This is modern flat track competition, about the closest thing you can get to Ben-Hur's chariot race. Except these machines push 100 horsepower and run the straights at over 160 miles per hour. But the straights are the easy part. Imagine what it feels like to throw your rear wheel into a drift at this kind of speed. Racers strap an iron shoe onto their foot to help post their way through the turns. But what you really need for this game is Milwaukee iron and an iron heart. Harley is proud of its winning record today, but back in the old days, each race was a scramble to keep the company alive, to let the public know your bike could outperform the competition. Harley's first challenge to its competitors came in 1908. Walter Davidson, the president of the company, entered a 2-day endurance run from the Catskill Mountains to Brooklyn, New York. I guess you could say he was a hands-on executive. Over half the entrants broke down the first day. Walter finished first on a stock machine he called the Silent Gray Fellow. You fuel economists might like to know that he averaged 188 miles per gallon on the trip. From that race on, Harley never looked back. They raced on the road and they raced in the bush. They sped around board tracks, dirt tracks, no track at all. They powered across the desert and they climbed any hill that got in their way. Sometimes. Harley riders like Red Parkhurst and Joe Petrali dominated the racing circuit like none before them. No other manufacturer could match Harley's success, except one, Indian. For over 50 years, Indian and Harley-Davidson were arch rivals. They competed on the track, in the sales rooms, and for the hearts and minds of America's riders. Today, the rivalry is muted, but Indians maintain a cultural power that matches Harley's. Both machines were strong, both were durable, and both had V-twin engines. There's something about the V-twin that moves people in ways other motors don't. It is the stuff that legends are made of, like the powerful English Vincent. This bike didn't even have a frame. They just bolted a couple of wheels to the motor. But no bike is more legendary than the Brough Superior, the original Rolls-Royce of motorcycles. This bike was guaranteed to do 100 miles per hour, back in the 20s, mind you. Today, it's remembered as the machine Lawrence of Arabia rode to his death.
Lawrence of Arabia, most thrillingly glorious of World War figures, led the tribes to battle and created the legend, the romance and the fame from which he sought to escape. I believe that the only motion picture of Lawrence ever to be shown is this.
T.E. Lawrence was the epitome of the British enthusiast. He loved riding above all else, and like many young men of the time, he was introduced to it during the Great War. The First World War had been raging for over 3 years before the U.S. got involved. When it did, Harley-Davidsons went right to the front. Motorcycles were used as battlefield communication, running dispatches between no man's land and the command post. In fact, the first American to enter Germany was riding a Harley, Corporal Roy Holtz, the son of German immigrants. Incidentally, this photo was actually taken of Roy riding out of Germany. He just learned the war wasn't quite over. You're looking casual there, Roy.